and Miss Speak came out. I didn't know it was Miss Speak at the time. I've said it before, and I'm sure she won't be pleased that I've said this, but she looked like Princess Anne on drugs. She was just this striking lady, you know, with big glasses, and the chain of the glasses, the hair all tied back, and very, very elegant.
I have nothing but fond and happy memories of the school right from the start to the finish of my time there. Both Miss Speak and Mrs. Collins were great characters. They were charismatic, dynamic, ambitious for their pupils, and they were a formidable team.
Naomi Campbell, she was at the school. I used to be taller and thinner than her. Now I think I'm about 6 times her width and half her height.
Hi, I'm Jeff Stevenson, and Keith's asked me to say a few words about my experience with the school. Being at Speaks, absolutely loved my time at Speaks. I was very lucky, told the story many times. I was working in the greengrocers, Frank Hewitt's in East Acton. I was going to Faraday School opposite. Frank Hewitt's daughter was called Vicky. She was lovely. She was at the school. I had this dream that I wanted to be in the business. I wanted to do stand-up comedy. I hadn't been to Butlins as a kid. And then I had a chat to Vicky one night when I was loading up the lorry with all the grocery and all the fruit and veg. And then I told her I wanted to be a comedian and an actor, and she said, "Why don't you join the school? Join the agency at BARBARA Speaks." So I thought, well, that's a bit of a good idea, why not? So the next day, I was walking past the school with my mates from Faraday, and I just walked into the school, and Miss Speak came out. I didn't know it was Miss Speak at the time. I've said it before, and I'm sure she won't be pleased that I've said this, but she looked like Princess Anne on drugs. She was just this striking lady, you know, with the big glasses and the chain of the glasses, the hair all tied back, and very, very elegant. She said, "Who are you?" So I said, my real name. I said, "Jeff Stevens. I want to be a comedian." I said, "I would like to join the agency. Go to Faraday." She said, "Well, follow me." So she took me into the office, and there was lovely Mrs. Collins, and she said, "June, this boy wants to be a comedian. His name's Jeff. He goes to Faraday. He wants to join the agency." So Mrs. Collins said, "Oh, well, you better tell us some jokes then. Have you got an act?" I said, "Well, yeah, I've got a little bit, because I was doing some shows for my sister's dance school, which was Cheryl King, who was also a teacher at the school." So I stood on this chair and I did about 2 minutes of jokes, and they were laughing, Barbara and Mrs. Collins. And so they said, "Right, when do you want to start?" I said, "Well, on the agency?" I said, "No, at the school. Start as soon as possible." I said, "My mum works in the carpet shop, and my dad's a milkman. I'm the eldest of 5 kids." I said, "We can't afford the school fees." said, don't worry, we'll do a fee earning grant. So I joined the school. The next day I actually went in to Faraday and told the headmaster that I was leaving next day, and he asked me why. He said, well, your parents moving? So I said, no, I'm going to BARBARA SPEAKE. I want to be an actor and a comedian. He said, I'll get out of my office. And as I walked out, he said, another boy with a dream. So that was it. Next day, I had a second-hand uniform and I joined the school and I went into this class. I got a feeling Mrs. Gadd was our teacher, lovely lady. And, oh no, it might be Miss Young actually. Might have been Miss Young. It was Miss Young. Anyway, joined the school. I was in there 2 days and this other new joiner came in. He sat next to me and I always remember a fire engine went, or a police car went down the A40 with the sirens going, and the bloke next to me turned around and said, hey, you won't sell many ice creams going at that speed. It was Brian Connolly, and he too wanted to be a comedian and an actor. We got on really well because we both had sort of similar ambitions, and then that was that. I was in the business suddenly. About a week later, I got the, we used to get the envelopes, and I got the envelope through with a little piece of paper, and it said, you're working tomorrow, BBC, 2 Ronnies. You got to be at Harefield at whatever time it was. I think I went to Harefield. Yeah, Harefield. It was the Fisheries Pub, which is now the Koi Cup. And I was in a sketch with Oscar Peck, who was also at the school, and it was for the 2 Ronnies. And so that was it. I was in the business. Got £7.50 for that day's work, and yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. And in not long, I was doing loads of auditions, lots of commercial auditions, going up to London on the number 7 bus, and going in and doing these commercial auditions and BBC auditions around the corner at TV Centre or up at London Weekend. And then I did a few commercials. I did quite a few commercials for, I did about 3 or 4 commercials for Alan Parker. And then he came to the school to audition for a new film, and it was Bugsy Malone, and we all lined up for an audition. And he came to me and he said, hi Jeff, how are you? I said, yeah, I'm great, thanks, Alan. Yeah, he said, nice to see you again. Stay behind, I want to talk to you. So I stayed behind. He said, I think we've got a part for you. He said, but I'd like you to read for Fat Sam. So I read for Fat Sam that day, and a few weeks later, I got a call back, went to up to town, was then told I was reading for the part of Louis, did that. Then I got another call back and a screen test, and then we got the message saying that we got the part, I'd got the part of Louis in Fat Sam's gang, and we were going to be at Pinewood all summer. So I'd gone from being a kid at Faraday, unloading the lorries at night with fruit, which I hate any sort of manual work. I was in the business, I was at Speaks, which I loved every moment of it. I loved it, and the people were great. You know, we had a great laugh, really. Even the lessons that I really shouldn't have been enjoying, I didn't mind going in and doing the history of ballet and all that stuff, which wasn't me, but I loved it. I loved my singing lessons with Mrs. Latuzel, who was really, really nice and really encouraging. And I loved doing the end of term shows. So yeah, as I was saying, I went from being at Faraday, working in a greengrocer's shop, to suddenly, within 6 months or 7 or 8 months, being in a film and just having the most fantastic time. And then when we finished the film, I went back to the school, and not long after, it would have been the following summer, having done lots of work by now, June Collins said to me, look, you know, there's a chance you might be able to go and do a summer season on the South Coast at a holiday camp. Would you be interested? So I said, yeah, of course I would. And I don't know how they managed, but I do know how. But I went, and at the age of 15, I worked on a holiday camp as a resident entertainer for 6 weeks. and that was it. I really sort of left school then, which I was a bit slightly upset about, because even though it was great to go and work down on the south coast, I loved being at the school. I did go back after the summer season, but it wasn't the same. And I did panto and all that stuff, and that's it. I was up and running, and I will never ever say anything disrespectful about the school, because it was just fantastic for me. And a few years later, things started to happen. I got my own show, a Channel 4 show called The Entertainers. It was a one-off, and they said to me, do you want any comps and whatever? So I said, yeah. And I sent 2 comps, 2 complimentary tickets to the school with a letter to Barbara Speak saying, look, to Barbara and June, I'd love you to come and see my show if you can. Let me know if you're coming. I didn't hear anything, but when after the dress rehearsal and what have you, I went for a walk. I couldn't believe what was happening. I turned the corner and there was a long queue, people waiting to go in. And right at the front was Mrs. Collins and Barbara Speak, right at the front queuing. I went up to them, I said, this is fantastic. Thanks so much for coming. You really don't need to be in this queue. And I can't remember completely, but I think I took them into the studio and said, look, can we look after these people? Because it's my old headmistress and my old agent. They were great. They were lovely. So it was always lovely. I always got invited to the reunions and what have you. And happy memories. So I hope this is what you wanted, Keith. All I can say is great times, and I missed the school for many years after we left. It was always nice to bump into somebody else who had been in the business, who had been at school, who was in the business. Like Brian, and there was an old mate of mine, Kim Smith, and Sylvester Vituzzo, and Keith Jane, and people like that. Well, I think Keith left the business, and I think he's now coming back into it. But anyway, good luck with this. I hope you can get something out of this. Thank you very much, Keith. Bye.
Where we're having a great time once again in the pub, and we have got a great show tonight. We really have a show of a difference. We've got a ballet dancer who's going to come out here and do the splits over a metal blade, singing I ain't half the fella I used to be. Actually, we had a funny audience last time I was working in this pub. They were a challenge and they won. There was a fella sat over there, sir, right where you're sitting, madam. And do you know, he didn't laugh once. I says to him, what's the matter with you? You haven't laughed once during my spot. He says, my stomach. Every time I laugh, it hurts. I said, that must be agony. He said, it's all right while you're on. Thank you. Now I'd like you to welcome one of the craziest, saniest characters on television today, Mr. Brian Conley.
Hold on. Look at the head on that lager. That's Skull lager. Hold on. You empty table over here? No, you empty table. Come on. Yeah. Yeah, well, hold on. Can I have that bottle there, Ray? Cheers, mate. Right, here, this is for you, okay? Absolutely. All right. You empty table over here? Yeah? Well, you can get the bill. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Brian Conley, and basically I'm humble, shy, modest, tough, deadly resourceful, at the peak of my physical fitness and mental alertness. Also handsome. Can we get a profile? You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Right on time. Debonair. Devastating with beautiful young ladies. You're beautiful. There's no need to be nervous, because I realize you haven't been this close to a superstar before. You can touch my body. All right. She's after my maracas. I'll tell you what, would you mind if I had a kiss? Go on, all right, all right.
I like you, sir.
But, ladies and gentlemen, on a sincere note. Any requests? I do a lot for hospitals. I make people sick. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to tell you, it's great to be on the telly because A, because I'm skinned. B, gives me a chance to tell you that I do sell tapes of my acts after the show, and in fact, I've got one on me at the moment, and this is a special offer. If anyone wants this, very reasonably priced. As Adrian said, I was going to do a Barry Manilow. So have we got any Barry Manilow fans in? I'll tell you what I love. You got to listen. I love it. All right. I love it. When Barry Manilow sings that song, that just one voice, and thousands of women, they get these candles out and they light them, and they all start screaming. You know what that is? That's all the hot wax. Anyway, no, ladies and gentlemen, you're boring me now. I'd like to say before I do go that red sky at night means the little shepherd's hut is on fire. But before I do go, I'd like to leave you with this thought. Cheers, all the best. Good night and God bless. Thank you.
I must tell you, when you were kids, I mean, you must have had a lot of fun when you were kids. We used to get up to some weird things in our neighbourhood. We used to play about in graveyards. I remember we was in a graveyard one night, all of a sudden I heard... I thought, what's that? Or words to that effect. I turned round, there's this old man, grey hair, hammer and chisel, chiselling away at this gravestone. I said, mate, you frightened the life out of me. What are you doing? He said, they spelt my name wrong. My brother, we haven't got time, listen, my brother fell down this open grave and it was wet, he couldn't get out. He tried to get out, couldn't get out, kept falling back down to the bottom. 10 minutes later, this drunk came along and he fell down the grave on top of my brother. My brother said, you'll never get out of here, he did. Funny family. I mean, they really were. There was my mum, I mean, we were poor. My mum on a Sunday, she used to sew mints together to make a joint. Me and my brother, we got this job as a lorry driver, and we've gone up, you know what it's like when you go for the verbal test? We've gone up and this bloke said, okay, he said, you're driving along the road. He said, and you're sitting there. Can you spread yourself about, darling? You'll make me look a success. We're going along, he said, right, you're going along the road, you and your brother. He said, your brother's asleep, you're driving your little vehicle. He said, approaching a humpback bridge. From the other side of the humpback bridge is a HGV vehicle doing 100 miles per hour. What is the first thing you do? I said, I'll wake up my brother. I said, why is that? I said, he's never seen a crash like this. You know, you're a lovely lot. Thank you. And you're welcome in the knees at any time. I must tell you, we've got a lovely lot here tonight, the searchers out top of the door. And they were at the bar earlier, and one of them said to the barman, he said, we were here in the 60s. And the barman said, I'm serving as fast as I can.
Hello, my name is Zoe Carryl and I attended Barbara Speake Stage School for the whole of my school life, that is starting at the age of 4.5 in 1973 until I left at the age of 16 in 1985. My mother and June Collins were friends as my brother Ronnie was in a band called Flaming Youth with her son, Phil Collins. And our two families lived quite close to each other near Hounslow in West London. I had already made my stage debut in 1972 as Baby Bonnie in the musical version of Gone with the Wind at the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane. And I think my mum, who's a singer, and my dad, who's a band leader, probably intended that I go to Barbara Speake's great rival school, the Corona, in Ravenscourt Park, because that was where they'd sent my brother Ronnie. But because June and my mum had become friends, I think June suggested to my parents that I should attend Barbara Speake's instead, which I did. I have nothing but fond and happy memories of the school right from the start to the finish of my time there. Both Miss Speake and Mrs. Collins were great characters. They were charismatic, dynamic, ambitious for their pupils, and they were a formidable team. One of the first jobs I remember that they found for me whilst attending the school was the TV advert for Chef's Square Shaped Soup, which you can still see on YouTube today.
Chef's Square Shaped Soup show how good soup should be. Now you try it.
No.
Why not?
Because.
I could teach you to say Chef's Square.
Carolyn, leave your uncle alone.
How good soup should be.
Chef Square-shaped soups. Show how good soup should be.
You said it.
No other soup can say that.
And that was made in 1976. I still remember going to Shepperton Studios to film it, and the enormous box of chocolates, it seemed to me, that the producer sent to me as a thank you afterwards. And the work just continued. Mrs. Collins was a phenomenal agent, and it seemed to me that all the children at the school worked all the time on all sorts of things. TV shows, adverts, West End theatre, pantos, films, radio shows, radio jingles, which I did a lot of. Modelling. I even remember doing some sort of hair modelling show at the Albert Hall when I was about 11. I mean, if it was show business, we did it. I met so many of the top entertainers in the business as a result of attending the school. Bruce Forsyth, we sang a Christmas single with him. Rod Hull in the Panto Emu in Pantoland did a great job. We all got a baby puppet emu as gifts at the end of the run, and I had mine for years and years. I loved that. Tommy Steele in the musical Hans Andersen at the London Palladium, got my photo with him still. Sheila Hancock, who's a wonderful lady, an actress, who played Miss Hannigan in Annie. And the list just goes on and on. I mean, all the showbiz royalty in London of the late 70s and early 80s, my school friends and I would have met on various jobs. Another person who sticks out in my mind was the choreographer Dougie Squires, who came to our school to teach us the routine we were to do for the Children's Royal Variety Show in 1979, I think the year was. He spoke to us at some length on the importance of stage presence and the art of making people look at you and pay attention to what you're doing, even if you're not performing some action or singing or anything. And I found this a very valuable lesson. And when he'd spoken, he said, "Okay girls, let's do the piece again, making your entrance as if you're on stage from the wings, and remembering what I have said about stage presence. You want to draw people to you. You want to make them look at you just by the force of your personality." So we did the entrance. It was a tap routine. I still remember the step actually. You know, something like that. And when we'd done it again, he turned to me and he said, "Thank you. You took in what I said." Well, priceless. Because Dougie Squires was a very important choreographer at the time. He did all the TV shows. He was a big cheese. You can study for years, but there are certain moments in show business when something is revealed to you in an instant, in one sentence, and it's a light bulb moment, and that was definitely one of those. But there were many, because of all these great stars and personalities that we got to meet as a result of attending the school and doing all these fantastic jobs. It's just as important to meet these hugely successful industry professionals and to hear even one line of advice from them as it is to go to your drama class or your dance class or whatever it is you're doing. I think one of the reasons that my time at Barbara Speaks was so happy was that there seemed to be no bullying or jealousy in all this. I only remember support and friendship from the other children in the school, and I think this was in a huge way down to Miss Speake's attitude to professionalism. She managed to instill such a great sense of this in us, what was professional and what was not. And bullying or jealousy or rivalry played no part in that. That wasn't professional. One week I might get a lovely part in a show or an advert, something like that, but the next week it would be another child, and we were all happy for each other, and I know we took it for granted. We just thought that was normal.
I'd like to talk to you before you go.
When the sun was saying, "Come and play," and the Reverend was making the 2.5 hours from 11 till lunch last forever, that was the moment the bird's eye peas were ready. And then 2.5 hours becomes very short indeed. 2.5 hours. That's how fast birds eye pick and freeze their peas. Only birds eye give you this promise. That's how birds eye bring you the tenderest, sweetest garden peas.
Birds eye peas, sweet as the moment, sweet as the moment when the hard wind.
I'm very jealous, by the way, that I was never in Grange Hill. All my school friends were in Grange Hill, and I never got to do it. Or the Pink Floyd video, Another Brick in the Wall. I don't know how I missed out on that. I would have loved to have done that. Miss Speake was a very grounded person, and boy, she did not suffer any nonsense. I mean, we were terrified of her. The old school was a very long, thin, one-storey building, and many times we would hear that she'd come to tell someone off for some misdemeanour, and she would march the culprit out of the classroom into this very long corridor, and up they'd go, and she'd be shouting at them all the way to the office to give them a really good telling off. And we would all thank our lucky stars. Oh my goodness, thank goodness it wasn't me. Or she maintained discipline and then some. Miss Speake would occasionally teach us ballet or tap if those teachers were off for some reason. But mostly she took us for the classes running up to the school shows, when we would do various numbers that we'd been working on during the term, and she would produce these shows. She'd pull everything together. And these would be the times when Miss Speake was at her most animated. And she would quite often be in a frenzy during the show, shouting instructions to us from the side of the stage, from behind the curtain. And she would literally, the curtain would be there, and she'd be pointing at us and shouting, and the curtain would be jerking. And the audience could see what was going on without a doubt. I'm sure that they knew what was going on. And then at the end of the show, she'd make quite a long speech, basically a kind of didn't they do well sort of speech. And we also used to laugh rather a lot when the costume room would be opened, and Miss Speake would bring out these costumes that she'd had year after year for us to wear in these shows. And we'd all wonder and wait in trepidation as to what she was going to put us in, because some of them had really seen better days. I think as I remember, she used to buy up costumes sometimes from West End shows that were finishing. They'd finished their run, and if you were lucky you might get something to wear that was rather nice, that had just been bought up from another production, a newer addition to this wardrobe. I remember the assemblies at the end of the school day, when she would maybe tell various people off for certain things maybe, or praise children who'd got a lovely job, a great job, and she'd give out envelopes to those children who were going to be going on auditions or jobs during that week. So if your name was called up, you went up to the stage, she gave you your envelope, and it would have a slip of paper in it saying where you might be going, with the details, what you were to wear, what you were to bring, And if you got an envelope, this was great because you knew, oh, you know, we might be going up to Greek Street or somewhere in London on the bus and the tube, and it was great fun with the chaperones. Or you might be going straight to do a job with no audition. You might be going to Pinewood or Shepperton to do a film or an advert or something.
When your friends were saying, come out and play, and old Miss Martin was making the 2.5 hours from break to tea last forever.
Sometimes.
That was the moment when the bird's eye peas were ready. And then 2.5 hours becomes very short indeed. 2.5 hours. That's how fast bird's eye pick and freeze their peas. Only bird's eye give you this promise. That's how bird's eye bring you the tenderest, sweetest garden peas.
Bird's eye peas, sweet as the moment, sweet as the moment when the pod went.
And I don't remember being nervous about any of these things because they happened every week. They were the norm to us. That was what we did. That was our life.
Sometimes I feel like dying, driving while I'm closing my eyes, moving in and out and hiding, trying to catch some truth in my life, watching your stars and your moonlight come tumbling down from the sky. Take it now. I'm gonna run to you. I'm gonna come to you. I wanna find you in everything that I do. I'm gonna run to you. I'm gonna count on you. I'm gonna follow. Baby, what else can I do? Sunday morning, my town is sleeping, lying all alone in my bed. There's not a sound I can't help but listening, wishing I was somewhere else instead. But sometimes they're too hard to handle, those voices inside my head. Listen now. I'm gonna run to you. I'm gonna come to you. I wanna find you in everything that I do. I'm gonna run to you. I'm gonna count on you. I'm gonna follow. Baby, what else can I do? Take a walk inside my dream, a lonely road.
Probably the highlight of my career in entertainment while still attending the school was winning the part of Annie in the London production that was on at the Victoria Palace in the late 70s. And of course this was as a direct result of all the knowledge and performance skills that I had built up at Barbara Speaks, even by the age of 12, when I was chosen to play the part. Now, I had already done 3 seasons in the show as Tessie, one of the orphans, but during my last season in 1981, myself and about 10 other girls who'd already appeared in the show as orphans were auditioned privately for the lead, which was quite a serious wake-up call, you know, to know that you were being considered to carry that lead role in the West End at the age of 12 was a big deal. But the audition went well, and one day at school, I remember it really well, Mrs. Collins called me into her office and she was quite beside herself with excitement. And she cut my face in her hands and she said, "You are going to play Annie." And I mean, I was like, wow, okay. And I couldn't quite believe it, but I remember so well, she and Miss Beak were literally running round their office like girls, shouting at each other, "When's she going to start? When's she going to start? Tell them she won't have her hair cut. We're not having her cut her hair. We want the end of the week. We want our Annie to have the end of the week." She said, "Our first Annie, June. Our first Annie." I mean, they were thrilled. And it's all been downhill since then. No, not really. Well, I did have to have my hair cut and dyed red for the role of Annie. And one day at assembly, Miss Beak hid me in the wings of the stage when I had just come back from having it done at the hairdresser's, Vidal Sassoon, if you don't mind, and brought me out onto the stage as a new pupil called Annie Carroll. And all my school friends in the hall just gasped and, you know, and then they applauded. It was really lovely because it was a really radical change for me. I'd had long hair, sort of long dark blonde hair, suddenly cut to this red bob. But there was nothing but warmth and camaraderie about it, as I've said before. I remember this happening with another girl, actually, a great friend of mine, Michelle, who had been chosen to play a chorus girl in the original cast of Bugsy Malone stage production of the show in the Haymarket at Her Majesty's Theatre, which Mickey Dolenz put on. And when Michelle came back from the hairdressers, Miss Speak hid her away like she had done with me, and she made a fantastic complimentary speech in assembly about Michelle's perseverance in her stage studies and all that she'd learned, and this had now been duly rewarded with the fantastic achievement of being chosen for the original cast, which is always a great feather in one's cap. If you're in the first cast of a West End show, that's a big thing. And she brought Michelle out onto the stage to reveal that her hair had been cut into a 1920s bob and bleached platinum blonde, you know, like Jean Harlow, ever so glamorous. And Michelle was about 13, and she looked like a gangster's mole, you know, so glamorous. And we were all 13, 14 at the time, so very interested, you know, beginning to be interested in boys and makeup and hair and clothes and things. And again, you know, the whole assembly just gasped in admiration. I think all the girls in the school ran straight out and got their hair bobbed, if not bleach blonde as well. It was stunning, but it was so nice of Miss Beak to give her this lovely praise. And Miss Beak really wasn't mean with praise when you deserved it, but it was very special when you got it. It was a lovely moment. After I had played Annie, I was chosen to perform the song 42nd Street on the Russell Harty show on BBC Two, and he was doing a piece on stage called Children. I don't remember being interviewed, I don't think I was interviewed, but I was just to perform this number, and I was to be accompanied by a group of girl dancers from the Bush Davis School. So I went off to East Grinstead I think the Bush Davis School was or is still, and to rehearse with them. Now at their school the atmosphere was very different from our school. The rehearsal was more like a classical ballet class than preparation for a sort of rather schmaltzy number, you know, and the ballet mistress was taking the rehearsal, and she kept stopping when we were performing the number and saying to me, "Darling, the ends of words, meet, feet, street," in her best Queen's English. And I was a bit nonplussed by this. I mean, in the production of Annie, I had received the finest vocal coaching from our lovely teacher Dulcie, who taught us all to speak an American accent absolutely perfectly and sing it. So this was an American song. I felt I knew how to perform this song with the correct accent. And the whole thing was very strange and very formal after the much more relaxed and friendly atmosphere at our own school. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I'm very glad I go to Barbara Speake School and not this one. We were aware that children from other stage schools did not seem to be allowed to do as much professional work as we were, and that suited me just fine, and my mum and dad. To me, the most important virtue of having attended Barbara Speakes was that all the children were given the opportunity to work. It's all very well having a great training, but what we left school with were full CVs. As I went into my adult life as a performer, the experience that Miss Speake and Mrs. Collins allowed us all to have spoke for me even before I even turned up at the audition. Those jobs that I had done during my school years got me the auditions in the first place, that I now went through to get jobs when I left school. And I can't be happier about that. It gave me immense confidence, and it gave me belief in my own abilities. I don't think I would have got that at school where the children were allowed to work less. And another invaluable life lesson was learned. My parents were entertainers, and as such often didn't have a great deal of money. And I knew that some of the money I made from the jobs that I was doing paid my school fees from a very young age, all through my school life. And the sense of pride I got from that was immeasurable. It was a great thing, and I'm still proud of it. After I left school, I went into the West End production of Starlight Express, where I was exceptionally happy, stayed for 5 years, not only using everything I learned at stage school, but drawing on the wealth of experience that I gained through having done all the jobs that I'd done at school. At school, we used to have a phrase, I was an all-rounder. And I don't know if they still say that now, if they still use that phrase, but it would mean that I sang, danced and acted all to a good standard. I was an all-rounder. As time went on, dancing and acting have kind of fallen by the wayside, and I concentrate now on singing. Was able to make my living in the entertainment industry. And I now live in France with my husband Kenny. We perform as the duo Mackenzie all over France, and we also have our recording studio here, Bouton Rouge, in the De Sèvres region of France. We were playing at a garden party near where we live some years back, and I got chatting to a chap in the audience, and unbelievably, I said, yes, I went to school in East Acton. He said, East Acton? Where did you go? I said, Barbara Speakes. He said, I did too. I just couldn't believe it. In the middle of rural France, I've met a fellow person from Barbara Speakes. And of course we got talking, lovely reminiscences about all the people we remember. Do you remember Mrs. Gadd? Do you remember Mrs. Young? He'd only been at the school for about 2 years, but it had left such a strong impression with him, and I don't think it ever leaves you, having had such a fantastic school experience. I can only sum up as I began. I have the happiest memories of my school days at Barbara Speaks. So long may she continue, because she's a legend. Thank you, Miss Speak.
Hello, my name's Sally, Sally Hall. When I was at the school, I joined in 1976, which was the very hot summer. Friends, I made so many wonderful friends there. It's such an awesome place because everyone was there for the same reason. Well, if they weren't, they were still mental. We had such good times. I always remember one time our teacher, Mrs. Gadd, she was a lovely lady, and she walked in to find us all on our desks, standing holding up the ceilings and going, "Miss, the ceiling's coming in, the ceiling's coming in." And she'd be, "Stupid children, get down." We said, "But Miss, if we let go of the ceiling, it's going to collapse." She'd just go, "Sit." And we did.